Peace in the body. What is it and how do we experience it? This is the question Wren and Fallon explore in Season 3 of Mujeres Co-Labor for Peace.
When it comes to healing and you're stuck in healing, where can we invite in that energetic peace?
Bringing you expert advice in healing from a host of practices and practitioners, Wren and Fallon seek to increase complete wellness and lasting peace, one insight at a time.
I've been talking about how I think my dad is really psychic now because as his conscious mind comes more offline, his unconscious mind comes more online. So he's very perceptive of things that maybe he wouldn't even have noticed or been aware of previously. So yeah, it's really grieving the loss of certain aspects, like sitting down and being able to have an in-depth conversation and having him hang in there and understand what I'm talking about, to, having to remind him of what I do for a job or what my life is like. And there's a sadness to that because it's not the same dad that could greet me and hold me and remember these aspects. And there's also something really beautiful about that. Not a bypassing, right? I'm holding the pain in this experience. And we've cried about it. We've raged about it. We've victim mindset about it. Absolutely. And gosh, my mom probably has it much harder because she's really his full-time caregiver, right? So she's really in it with him in these ways. But an example of where it can be beautiful is since I became pregnant, I get to tell him every day. Yeah. I get to tell him every day. He's like, I'm like, yeah. So fun, right? Like I get to see his reaction a million times, and the joy's there, the love's there. I mean, he's like this beautiful, joyful, loving, charismatic person, and that person is still there. And yeah, also having grieved many aspects of myself as I've grown and changed and evolved. There's parts of me that have been lost. There's relationships I've outgrown. Being on different timelines, right? When you kind of grow in a different direction as someone you love, and the grief of that. Moving through this journey and becoming a whole new person on the other side of motherhood. It's beautiful and amazing, and there's grief in that. There's a part of me that's currently dying as another part of me is rebirthing through this birth process. So it's all of that. And circling back to my dad, I know that there will be a day where he's also physically no longer here with us. And the same way I kind of talked about my experience of grief, of losing aspects of who he is, and then being able to connect to these new parts of who he is, I see that in physical death too, when we lose a loved one.
Absolutely, yeah. I want to riff on that a little bit, if I might, or are you still in process?
Yeah, I just wanted to say one piece that's been really helpful for me is learning that if you were to condense all of the matter in someone's body, the physical matter, that we would each fit into a grain of sand. And so even as I'm losing these kind of aspects, of my dad, like his soul is still here. His energy, his spirit is still here. Yeah. And then once he, is to pass, as we all will, I believe, and this is also what helps with the grief, that I will still get to experience his soul on the other side and have a completely new relationship with that form of my dad. And that it's a grain of sand that makes us tangible here. That, it's a grain of sand. It's not all of who we are. It's just an aspect of who we are.
Right.
So anyways, I want to let you riff on it. I just wanted to speak to like the full circle of that.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I appreciate hearing and actually energetically feeling the shift in your relationship that's happening all the time. And the joyful, I'm sure it's a little joy, right? There's grief. There's a lot of grief.
Yeah.
And you're balancing the grief and the joy by having the perspective of, who's my dad today?
Yeah.
Who am I today? What's this relationship today?
Yeah.
And that presence is really all we can really aspire to, is to stay in that present moment. And through the passing, I was just thinking about like when my mom passed, Both my parents have passed.
Mm-hmm.
And I do feel that I have a better relationship with my mom now than we ever had.
Yeah.
And I call on her all the time. One of the things she said to me today was to bring in this is my life hack. I journal a lot, but this particular journal is a list of 15 everythings. Like, anytime I read a book, I'll like 15. If I like the book, I'll write 15 highlights from the book. It just allows me to remember things. Like, but what I want to share today.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because I know this was my mother's influence to bring this today. A life hack is a really good idea. And if anyone is interested in doing this 15 things list, it is really liberating. I wrote down 15 needs I have, and I want to read through some of those, but also maybe this one I will save for another episode, because these are really up for me right now, and there's a lot of grief around. Things that create gaps and divides in relationship, things that break us apart and things that bring us together. They're active, but they're not all about grief, and it's more my grief. So maybe I'll just read these. So when I get into like a raw or like open, really wide open, dark, deep, not dark. It's not always dark. Like we're in the moment of the solstice, and the days are getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And that darkness is not really celebrated culturally in the dominant culture. It's more like, oh, now the days are getting longer and we can celebrate that. What if we did celebrate the darkening as not what if grief was a wonderful experience? You're holding it as it's an experience. Joy is an experience.
Right. It's not negating the joy even when there is darkness.
Yeah.
And even when there's physical darkness.
So many beautiful things happen at night.
That's right.
Like, there's growth happening. There's, nocturnal animals in their total joy, in their element. And so let's have a different look at darkness and even emotionally. So when I was in one of those states in that dark reflective space, reflecting the light, this is what I came through of my own needs, 15 needs, my list. 1, active participation in communities of gratitude. Like, even just reading it, it's like, oh yeah, I wrote that. I'm actively looking for communities of gratitude, and that's a big story. Like, grateful smile of the heart is my Dharma name, and I look at it and I'm just practicing gratitude because it was an absence. Like, that's resourcing, release of control, worry, fear as a daily practice, tending soil. Cultivate, literally and metaphorically, cultivate beauty, to write and be with writers, to dance with others in a flow state, to share, teach, expand energetically, to love my body, my gut deeply, to prepare and eat beautiful food daily, to co-generate, collaborate, and build. Creativity, authentic relating relationship. All my parts interbeing synergistically. Complete wellness and lasting peace. To block harm, to be heard and understood, and to be a good relative. Those are my 15 needs. That's it.
Beautiful.
Like, that's the most important page in this whole. Well, they're all good, but like, let's write our list and let's live our list, and maybe that will resource us, that self-resource to move through grief as simply an experience of being human.
It's beautiful. You wrote down your needs, which I imagine helped you land in them.
Yeah. Root them in the body. Like you were saying, that pathway. Choose that pathway, and widen it and live it. Brain myelination, in the brain and the body and the action and the ways of life.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I feel that these supports aren't here to make meaning prematurely, right? To pull us out of the human experience or to look at something positively and not feel the depth, right? That's kind of the bypassing piece. Or to think, I'm sure anyone that's experienced loss of a loved one and has grieved it loathes the phrase, everything happens for a reason.
I know.
Right?
Can I tell you? When it was my brother, and when he was, we had one priest come to the house.
It was your brother
who was murdered.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he was 5.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Thank you. Yeah,
that's devastating.
We had a priest come to the house and say, God needed a flower for his garden. What?
You're like, why did you take my flower?
I mean, like, I don't know. Is that everything happening for a reason? Like,
totally.
I don't like that reason.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awful. I can't even imagine how devastating and earth-shattering that is to experience as a child, especially when it comes to your sense of safety. And it makes sense that children need so much connection for their reality, especially sensitive, empathic children. To go through that experience and then not have the support in processing it and understanding it changes
from
your
the
brain.
faith community, or from the medical community, or from the family community. So seeking multidimensional safety, knowing that, like, as a child, we know it's in these spaces, but why isn't it?
Right.
So it's
you're seeking it, and it's not there.
Right.
Yeah. So makes sense that there's an experience for you of continuing to come back to grief in a safe way and to be able to process it and to find the joy in it. Incredibly challenging. So I think kudos to you.
Thank you. I really do feel like it's my superpower, and like the greatest thing that I've achieved is to still have that child, the child spirit, and be at that sensitive, perceptive human being now, like, through it, to have, like, I've certainly lost it and come back to it, but to reclaim it, I think is the greatest thing. And I think Rumi says to start somewhere and go, like, full circle and come back to that place, knowing it differently is really what life's about. And we start off as that beautiful flower, and to stay beautiful, stay in the beauty way. You are clearly doing that with the very difficult work of living in relationship with and watching parts of your father shift very differently. And I love how you're able to see and celebrate his psychic, amazing, like, gifts that are emerging as parts are shifting or falling away. Like, could we all see ourselves in each other as, wait, you've changed. Who are you now?
Who are you now?
Yeah.
Can I meet you here?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it all gets to exist. I mean, again, having that experience as a child is much different than having the experience that I've, had with different layers of grief as a resourced adult with skills and safety and community and connection to something bigger. So however you move through that experience, or however you have moved through that experience and continue to widen that place of safety within your body is really beautiful and impressive, and not for the faint of heart.
No.
And there is something to teach and share from however you move through that, whatever map you create to have moved through that throughout your life is gold, right? That's a map that can be shared and taught, that can support others. It's a gift. And what the priest said struck me too, in talking about bypassing, right? we still get to be in the breaking down. We still get to be in the shattering.
So you had a priest come visit?
No, I was speaking to yours that you shared. Yeah.
I was going to be like,
no, the flower thing.
Yeah.
It really struck me.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we still get to be with the shattering and the breaking down and the loss. That reconstruction, that reconfiguration that happens at a root level is necessary.
Yeah.
It is absolutely necessary. We chose to be humans in these bodies on this earth realm in this incarnation. The ways we resource are not to bypass that human experience, but to support that human experience. And something I've heard through connecting, right, to spirits on the other side is you could find a thread of similarity to that, but I want to just share it so that people can really feel how different it is. To access support without bypassing versus bypassing.
Yeah, if instead of the priests, or say we had a healer come to the house so many years ago and say, grief is okay. Allow yourself to grieve. Grieve together as a family. Allow your community to come in and witness your grief and be there to the extent that they can. You are the one that, can navigate that grief. And you can ask for what you need to help you navigate that. And you can say no to other people's help if you can't receive it at that moment. But allow yourself to grieve. And how would the world have been different, right? Fortunately, grief is really up. There's a lot of people speaking about it and doing something about it and experiencing it, allowing it to just like wreck them, because, and trusting that they will come through.
They will come through.
Yeah.
That's the big piece, is trusting you will come through.
Yeah.
You have more faith. When we talk about that excavation and that carving of the pathway, you have more faith and trust in the surrender process that is necessary to move through grief if you've done it.
Yeah.
If you realize, I know that there's a way out of this, I know that this is not permanent, knowing that and embodying that knowing gives you so much more trust and support to move through it again and again. That first time you're like, this is going to last forever. Am I ever going to be able to move through this? How do I relate to this? How do I reorient?
Am I moving through it?
Yeah. Am I moving at all?
Yeah.
And once you've gone through that, you kind of know what to expect there, right? You know the landscape of that dark woods. You recognize by felt sense where the boulder is and where the path opens up and where there's a tree you can rest under, even if you can't see. It's pure darkness, right? I've walked this before, so I have a memory of how to walk myself through it again.
The interesting thing about it is that I'm never going to not grieve and be in grief around my brother's death.
Absolutely.
But I've come through it. So that's really a key thing, another key piece of the elemental gold discovery in the process of alchemizing the grief. It's that we're not like dropping the grief and we're done.
Right.
It's living with the grief in a way where it can exist, it can coexist with the light within.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well said.
It's because that grief is going to be activated by other frequencies of similar grief. And that is empathy, right? I'm gonna vibrate when someone shares the loss of a family member, or, like they've lost their brother, or they've witnessed murder, or they've, experienced something that just brings that trauma up for me. And I'm like, oh, I'm in my heart with you now because I have transformed that trauma within myself. Right. So I can be in my heart with you around something so big.
That's right.
Right? Or so many other types of grief that I have come through. I can be with others in a really resonant way, in an empathic way, because I have come through it.
100%. 100%. If we can't be with an experience within ourselves, we can't be in that experience with somebody else.
Yeah.
So the only way we cultivate community and the ability to show up for one another is if we're able to give ourselves that connection, if we're able to give ourselves that safety. And, maybe for you that also means connecting with the little girl that experienced that as a safe adult, as an evolved adult, with resources, with skills, and bringing that sense of safety to her, because her nervous system still lives within you.
Exactly. That parts work we keep talking about. It's so important to know what is activated and to name it and to dialogue with it so that we befriend all of our parts.
Healing.
Yeah.
We can still go back and give her that sense of safety because because her nervous system is alive and well within you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's bringing that piece of her nervous system and what she experienced, this loving, wise support of adult Wren. So that's beautiful. To circle back to one piece I wanted to say, as another example, when I've connected to spirits on the other side, I've heard a couple of times, maybe once or twice, from the spirit that I'm actually a better dad in this form. This is where I can support you best. On Earth, I was limited. I was limited because of my own trauma, my own lack of capacity, my own lack of awareness.
Wow.
But here on the other side, there's more possibility, there's more potential. I have moved through my own healing and crossing over, and now I can guide you. I can send you signs. I can open doors. I can create energetic pathways for opportunity for you that I couldn't in my physical form. I've actually heard the spirit say I was limited in my grain of sand, human matter, and here I'm unlimited.
Beautiful.
And I can support you from this unlimited way of being.
Mm.
And so a bypassy way is to say, now you have another angel,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like, no, I want my dad. You're a physical person. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I think to hold more of what's true about that experience is, well, you really did need your dad in this form, actually.
Yeah.
And the people that I've relayed that message to, it's like full body resonance for them. Like, absolutely, I can feel that I have a brand new relationship with my dad in this form.
Mm-hmm.
And I can talk to him all the time, and he can come with me wherever I go, and he is supporting me, and he is guiding me, right? It's an example of someone that lost their dad.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a bypassy way of saying it. Well, it happened for a reason, or you needed another angel. Yeah, but then there's like a real texture to that. No, you needed someone in your life with more capacity, and they had to be in this expanded form to serve you in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So that for me, is one of the ways in which spirituality is a support to safety, because if it's just loss for no reason,
Exactly.
and again, we don't want to impart meaning on something before we've allowed ourselves to process it and feel it, because that's there too.
Mm-hmm.
But if we then don't do the alchemical part, which is like really coming in to understand why this is part of our karmic journey or this pathway in
How
this
are we
lifetime.
going to honor and really uplift that experience in a way that serves us and whomever else is brought into our path for that?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And not doing it so that we're not suffering, but doing that last part because it's real and it's true and it matters,
Mm-hmm.
and that as a byproduct does alleviate suffering. Yeah. So you can feel the difference of that. I think people can feel the difference of that as they hear it.
Yeah, totally. I'm here with you in witnessing your experience. Like I resonate with your journey, and I want to honor that. Yes, you needed your dad in that form,
Mm-hmm.
and you're making that shift and releasing and moving through so that you can have him in the new form.
Right. Simultaneously, you'll always miss him.
Yeah.
In his form that you knew him in,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. But also, how can you open to the joy that's here and walk with that alongside the pain?
Beautiful. Wow. I would so love to share with you an experience I had this morning.
Yeah.
Can I? Yeah, please. I went out I actually texted you that I was taking my dogs out for a run.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the same field I always take them to, but it's covered in snow right now. And I had a really beautiful experience. And I don't know why, but I feel like I need to share it. Of the elements in that moment. The dogs were off doing their thing, running. They have the same path that they run and back and forward and whatnot. But I was so dropped in because, like when snow's really crunchy and you can walk right on the top, it was like that snow. And I'm walking and the sun is up and it's just so beautiful. It's 20 something degrees, but it feels really warm. And supposedly we're getting in the 50s in the next few days, which is so strange with climate change. A lot of people welcome that, but I'm like, uh-oh. But I'm in this warm, snow, bright day, and I'm walking, and I'm really happy to just be present with the snow. And I look, and I'm like, everywhere are colored sparkles. It's just so beautiful. And I was breathing in the beautiful air. It wasn't too cold. It was just perfect. And I felt all the elements in that moment in such a gorgeous way. And so I want to reinforce that in my foundation with you. That the earth was holding the snow, the water. The earth was holding the container for that water in its crystalline form. And the sun, the fire, was providing the sparkle, that color, that refracted spectral color in the snow, and the air was holding that temperature, that perfect temperature for all of that to happen. And I was just so happy walking, seeing all the color and pausing and feeling all four of those elements. And then I walked to where the dogs were, and I turned to walk back. And with my back to the sun, I didn't see all the color. And I was like, and I had this was the epiphany that I want to share. When we turn our back to the fires within, and I'm so philosophical, but I'm making this, when we turn our back to the light, or to the fire, to the source, the color is gone. The color of light is gone. So we have to keep that light in front of us and within us. It's all the elements, because obviously just the fire of the sun, it can't exist without the air and the rain, because all of it comes together to make that experience of color, of life, the full spectral living.
That's so beautiful. And the way that I'm understanding that or interpreting that is connecting to why it's all happening the way it's happening, why it's all unfolding the way it's unfolding, why we've walked through the portals we've walked through, why we've initiated, right?
Yeah. With curiosity, not with why this, it's more like, oh, I'm curious about why, right? So that I can,
and even an understanding
and claim it.
That's right. An understanding of this is why I initiated into this experience through grief. This is why I've walked these ways, right? Because if we zoom out, there are these perfect, I don't know if you want to call it patterns, or there's it's the culmination of all of these supports coming together in a perfect way to create this beautiful, glistening,
elemental
moment.
Yeah.
And inviting that curiosity, right? Of, okay, well, how is this unfolding? And why is this unfolding? And what is really coming into perfect alignment by all of these elements showing up in the way they're showing up?
Exactly.
And if we turn our back to the light, it is way darker and colder here than is necessary. And
less beautiful.
And if we were to only focus on the light, we would miss all of the other elemental textures.
Exactly.
So it's we need that balance, and understanding that everything is working together to support this moment of alignment. Everything is working together to support this moment of alignment. Even the polarity.
I love that you're saying this moment, because why can change. Like, we can be so clear about a why. Why is this so? This is an exercise, one of the very many exercises in the Unfortunate Journal, using our wits. Why is this so? Wits. And the why can change. I'm so clear on why this is so in this moment.
Yeah.
And let ourselves really surrender to the evolution of the new use of our wits, or the new why this is so.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
And on top of that, sometimes we do have to walk in the dark. Sometimes we can't see the picture when we're still in the frame.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's like, I do not know why, but it's that trust and that surrender, which if you've walked it before, it's a bit easier to trust that. But it's that surrender of, I know I'm going to know why when I've moved through this experience. I know I'm going to know why when I can look back at this picture, when I'm not still in the frame. And if I know that and I trust that, then I can walk blindly.
For the current medical industry to trust in the crumbling.
When you're at work, when you're at work and you don't have enough time and you're burnt out and you're a piece of the system, that's really, really hard. Right? That's why it's a scaling back and really being able to look at it. And then making decisions about boundaries for yourself, what you're willing to do, what you're not willing to do, what you're willing to be a part of, what you're not willing to be a part of. All of that gets to exist too.
Yeah.
But understanding it on a macro level, more global level, I think is really grounding, and I think it's honest. Even supporting clients through everything that's happening in the world right now, and how do I trust that this is all unbecoming so that something can become, when there's so much pain and devastation and dehumanization, right? Yeah. And I'll always guide them to tune into, this is the spiritual piece, that I talk about too, on an energetic, it's more energetic, but same level. Tune into the vibration of that, right? What feels true for you? What feels true in your own body? Yeah. And I'll often guide them to imagine something utopian, right? Completely peaceful, all light. They can usually feel that doesn't feel true. Yeah. They can usually feel there's an inauthenticity to that. Tune into something all dark, pure dark.
That doesn't feel authentic either.
That's right. That doesn't feel authentic either. Tune into what's happening now and the inverse of that, and how it's all supporting each other through polarity, right? To come into something better. They can feel the truth in that. Yeah. So I guide anyone listening, or I invite anyone listening into that practice where if you're really trying to find the core of something, the authentic truth of something, without bypassing it, and yet without living in the dark or the density, so deeply that you can't feel the elements of light, tune into the frequency of each and see what feels like truth to you.
Right now.
Yeah, that's training your own intuitive system, which is another spiritual approach, another energetic approach. Tune into your own intuitive system to find your own sacred yes and no. Yeah. And know that there's wisdom in that.
Exactly. Well, that is why this journal is called Your Fortune, to attune oneself. I have to say, I have to invite you to do another episode on polarities, because I was certified in polarity management, and it is so up for me right now as I'm doing this. I'm putting together a proposal for Liberation Ventures. It's a whole thing for 2026 to kind of counterbalance the president's anniversary celebrations. It's more of uplifting the African American experience in America over centuries, and in the process, I'm really tapping into polarity management and navigating binaries through the lens of power dynamics. And I would really love to hear more about your experience of of using polarities and working through them, and power, like really looking at, because we've talked in these 2 episodes of moving up and moving back in different ways through grief, and with the dark and the light, and there's so much to be said about polarities relative to power dynamics, and learning about our own powers and stepping back, releasing some power, and knowing what we have in order to use it for the good, for collective good.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Love to hear more
Yeah.
about your work too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a very dynamic and important topic of grief over episodes 7 and 8. And we welcome you to, I don't know, do you want to say more about that?
Yeah, we welcome you to share any insight you have, any questions you have, any feedback. We'd love to hear how this episode touched you. And it always feels really great to connect with people. So please reach out.
And again, we wish you all complete wellness.
And lasting peace.
Till next time.
Bye.